Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday, 9 p.m. here in Ireland and UK, 10 p.m. in France, and 4 o'clock in Brazil.
Six.
6 o'clock in Brazil, yes. Good to have you all here. This is the last episode of the year 2022. My gosh, times fly, and it's always good be with all these friends. And today we have a special friend, Munir. Munir is one of our associates of the Spiritual Light. So he's here with us. So good to have everyone. I hope everyone had a great Christmas. So, Fayute, my Irish friends, and today's topic is seeing discarnate spirits. Okay, so let's give it to everyone. Introduce yourself. So let's start with the ladies first.
Thank you, Stevan. Hello, dear friends. As Stevan said, time is flying so quickly that it's impossible sometimes to do everything that we promise to ourselves in the year. But it's always time to restart again, reinforce our hope, our faith, and our duties in order to serve under Jesus' teachings. This is the motto for ourselves this year, 2023. Be a better person, judge less, speak gossips less, and do our best in order to transform our inner Elsa, inner ones that we are under God's creations. So I hope you all enjoy this talk tonight. That's wonderful because we have a lot of reflection to do when talking about mediumship. This is a mediumship we are talking tonight. So welcome everyone, and thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Munir, for being with us in the last meeting of the year, and thank you, Charles. Charles is our foundation, our basis for Allan Kardec studies. Thank
It's
you all.
our pillar. Yeah. So, Charles, bonsoir.
Yes, bonsoir Steven, bonsoir à tous, bonjour. Très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous aujourd'hui, la dernière fois en 2022, pour vous parler aujourd'hui de médiumnité. Hein. C'est un des phénomènes clés qui nous prouve l'existence de l'esprit et la survie de l'esprit après la mort. Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Very happy to be here with you again. The last Wednesday of 2022. Soon we will restart 2023 with a big pleasure. And today talking a little bit about mediumship, which is one of the key phenomenon, proving that we have a soul and that the souls are surviving after what is wrongly called death.
Okay. Good evening, Munir.
Good evening, Stevan. Agradeço o convite. Meu boa tarde, boa noite e até bom dia para aqueles que estão do outro lado do planeta nos assistindo nesse momento. Nesse último encontro aqui do ano, em que vamos falar da visão dos espíritos, né? Através do fenômeno que é a mediunidade, bastante conhecido e também ainda bastante desconhecido, mas um fenômeno que está acompanhando a humanidade desde sempre e que faz parte dessa ligação nossa com o mundo espiritual, uma ponte que a gente faz. Então, é um prazer estar aqui. Hello, Steven. Thank you for the invitation. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to those who are with us and are on the other side of the planet. So in this last meeting of the year, we'll be talking about the seeing spirits through mediumship, which is a phenomenon, although well known, it is until, unknown in its full extent by everyone. And so we hope that today, discussing this aspect of mediumship, which is an interchange between the physical world and the spiritual world, we can learn a bit more about our nature. Thank you, Steven.
Okay, thank you. So, good evening, our friend Ruben de los Santos in Uruguay. Thank you for being here with us. Ana Cristina Aisha, thank you for staying with us. So, in order to start, as always, let's go to our video.
Stay with us.
I've traveled to the remote highlands of Sulawesi, Indonesia, to witness the unusual customs of the people of Toraja, who mix Christianity with ancient religious beliefs. Thank you for having me a part of this. Okay, thank you. I just came to visit your grandmother.
Cuma datang melihat Oma. Oma.
In Toraja, after someone's dead but before they're buried, they're considered to be sick or still sleeping. So keeping them at home until the burial is a common thing. That gives families time to plan and save money for an elaborate send-off ceremony.
So this is the family. Welcome.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Okay. Very, very beautiful the way she's dressed.
Yeah, that's a typical Torajan dress.
How long has she been sleeping for?
4 days.
4 days. The ancestral village of Ketekesu is home to stone caves where the dead are ultimately laid to rest. I was prepared for a profound spiritual moment. But as it turns out, so are a lot of other people.
Thank you.
I was actually under the impression that this was, sacred and remote, and I was actually a bit taken back to see so many other tourists. It was like Disney World for the dead. There turned out to be people here from all over the world. What did you come to Toraja for?
Come to see our ceremonies. It was very nice.
Could you imagine tourists coming to your funerals?
No, not in this way.
Even Katerina, who welcomed me into her home earlier, turns out she works in the tourism industry as well at a booth that sells death-related souvenirs.
Yeah.
You wanna dance and then you use that on your head?
Show me around. Show me all the things you've got. Sell me something. Or why are there so many knives here?
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice?
Buffalo.
You kill a buffalo with one of these? This is a sarong that we wear at the funerals.
Yes.
Let's get this buffalo head to go. Saleko to go. It's pretty clear Torajans have made some of their traditions into an entire tourist industry.
Okay. Do you see someone going to your funeral as a tourist? Wow.
Steven, I'd like to know here, people that are watching now, watching with us. There are people that travels far from their homes in order to see ghosts. In England, it's so common. People go into the haunted houses and pay for that in order to see ghosts. And now here we will discuss this important phenomena that is apparition or dead people, spirits of dead people. And interesting how some people are naive regarding mediumship,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah. And so, first of all, good evening, Marco Davis. Thank you for being here with us. So, my introduction is we always delude ourselves with that because it does not exist. The material body, the material vehicle, does the notion of eternity and the belief in eternal life. So, this passage during the material phase kind of delude ourselves in terms of is a continuation. It is eternal. The consciousness of being of objects is only through the five senses: sight, smell, touch, hearing, and taste. If you can't see, touch, smell, or hear, then it doesn't exist. That's that's why we have a lot of people say, "Oh, the spirit doesn't exist. The life after that doesn't exist," because we are only using the five senses. Um on earth, everything is ephemeral and uncertain, and the only thing left for us is the certainty of death. Even for those who deny it, they will die. They will die. One day, they will die. Then comes the fear of the unknown. So why people have is afraid of going to the cemetery? Why people is afraid of talking about death? Why the people are afraid of talking about ghosts? Because of they have fear of the unknown. And thank Kardec, we have Spiritism as a consolation of eternal life. And the belief, the certainty of reincarnation is a consolation for us. And the spirits are always in contact with us, which is why the word mediumship refers to someone mediating the encounter between a disembodied person and our world of trials and atonement. And many spirits are in tune with what is happening on earth and have an affinity with certain people. In this way, they transit through different places with some connections. Saying that, Mr. Charles, is there any rule? Is there any ritual, time to the spirits communicate with, let's say, with the material world?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Stevan. Basically, when we look to the history, there were mediumistic phenomenon all the time, always. Since even in the prehistorical time, when you see also Egypt, you see Moses, you see the Vedas, you see in the Gospel, Jesus, there were a lot of mediumistic phenomena. The Celtic people practiced intensively the relationship with the souls of their fathers, and voilà. So it is only since more recent time that the materialist paradigm has taken more force. Okay, and the materialist paradigm is the result of a kind of a rejection of all the abuses which have been committed by the representative of the official religions, or whatever, Christian or Muslim or whatever, which are imposing dogmas and manipulating the people, using the religion as a tool for manipulating, dominating, and exploring the people. So then what happened is basically a lot of people who were not satisfied with this anymore started idealizing some revolutions, like in US, in France, in the 18th centuries, and then a lot of others, of course, everywhere. And basically they rejected the religions, but they rejected also the soul and the spirituality. And that is basically what we call, we go from one extreme to the other, the superstition to the scientific paradigm, rejecting completely all what is not tangible, all what is not visible, all what is not matter. Okay, so but yet the mediumistic phenomenon happened every time, and Kardec really initiated more in-depth studies with the scientific notions and level of knowledge and capability of understanding of the population at that time, in order to explain better and to make even experiments, observations that he gathered in the Spiritist body of knowledge, mostly the Spirit's book, that was the first he published, and then the second one, which was very specifically about mediumship, the book on mediums, which still today is the best book on mediumship ever written. It's really amazing all what Kardec managed to gather as information in that book, only 6 or 7 years after he started studying the phenomenon. Okay, and to answer more specifically to your question, Kardec is clearly determining that spontaneous phenomena, they happen unpredictably. They can happen at any time, everywhere. You can have some spontaneous phenomena. Why? Because since they are spontaneous, they are basically organized by the spiritual world, and they select then the best place, moment, persons, and so on to have the phenomenon, to produce the phenomenon spontaneously. This means without us people, incarnated people, and even the mediums being aware or having any forecast that this phenomenon will happen. Okay. But there are also, as I told, experiments. People are gathering in what is so-called mediumistic or mediumship practicing meetings, okay? And that is then different because it is not spontaneous anymore. It is organized by us human, but not only by human. So the rules basically are have been very clarified by Kardec. So there is no need of rituals, except the mediumistic meetings start with a prayer. So some people consider that a prayer is a ritual. Okay, fine. If a prayer is a ritual, yes, there is a prayer at the beginning of the mediumistic meeting. Okay, but then nothing else. There is only a dialogue which is being installed, either by writing or by speaking, depending on the mediumship format, between the people who are present in this meeting and the spirits who are coming to communicate, to exchange with us. Okay, there is no other ritual, no objects, no need of candles, no need of crystals. All this, a crystal ball, all this is absolutely dispensable. Good mediums, they only need a quiet place where they can concentrate, a place where there is also a kind of a good vibration, where the people are used to come and to pray and to make serious activities like readings or studying and things like that. So these are basically the conditions for the mediumistic meeting organized by us. But organized by us, I would say planned by us, because the planning, it has to be every, for instance, Tuesday, 9 o'clock. So, and the timing is absolutely, is very important to follow, because what happens when we plan it, the people first must gather physically or even virtually, because now we can also have a virtual online mediumistic meeting, so everyone is at home like we are now. Mediumistic meeting can also happen successfully like that. So it's not even absolutely necessary to have a place, but of course you need to have a room where you can close, where there is no noise, nobody bothering you, and so on. And why is this so important? Because there is also a spiritual team, the mentors, the benefactors, which are assisting, and basically they are somehow even leading the mediumistic meeting. They are selecting the spirits who will come, because that's another point. You cannot, any spirit cannot come at any time to communicate through any medium. This is proven to be impossible. The conditions to be gathered is, first, the spirit has to be willing to come and to communicate. Maybe he doesn't want, so nobody can force him to come. Second, he needs to be allowed to come and to communicate by the higher elevated spirits. Third condition, he needs to have a medium with a kind of compatibility or affinity with him, allowing him to communicate. So you see, there are several conditions which needs to be met for having a successful communication by a spirit through a medium. And this is why, how to say it, the materialistic people, they are criticizing, because they want to impose their conditions, and this doesn't work like that. If you for instance, you need to be in the conditions favorable to for that, so that the phenomenon can happen. You need to have these favorable conditions, and you cannot force different conditions, because otherwise the phenomenon cannot happen anymore. It's like, for instance, when you want to see the behavior of an animal like a lion, you cannot say, oh, no, to observe better, I want this lion to be put in a cage or whatever, so that I can observe him better. It doesn't work like that. If you want to observe him, his natural behavior in his natural place, you have to go there, to be discreet, use big teleobjective, zoom and whatsoever, in order to observe him, making the maximum you can that the animal does not perceive you, otherwise it will change its behavior. So it's somehow the similar conditions for mediumship, because it depends on the spirits, and it depends on those conditions that we have just told. Now, of course, you have also some mediums which have, how to say, the mediumship is quite, they are quite sensible in mediumship. And for instance, as the title we have today is, can we see the discarnated spirits? Some persons, they sometimes can spontaneously, without willing, in the street, wherever they are, they can see spirits. Okay, it's quite rare, but it comes back to what I told at the beginning, to the spontaneous phenomenon. Okay, and so the person has to learn to live with that, because some may think, that would be wonderful to see the spirits all the time, but it's not really like this, because everywhere there are spirits around us, good spirits, less good spirits, and to see them permanently would cause a lot of trouble to us, because in the biographies of Chico Xavier and Divaldo Franco, there are some comments about this type of things, because they have this type of very sensible mediumship, and sometimes they have difficulties to know if what they are seeing is an incarnated or a discarnated spirit. So it would be quite bringing trouble to have this permanent mediumship. That's why it is very rarely like this, and most of the time we cannot see them. And better is to have the phenomenon happening in dedicated, organized meetings. Okay, and for this we need to have the study, of course. We do not advise anyone to go and to participate to a mediumistic meeting without knowing who are the spirits, how to distinguish the good spirits from the bad spirits, because it would be quite dangerous and can lead to serious problem for the people who are practicing without adequate previous study. So this is what I can say so far. So mediumship is extremely important, as I told at the beginning, because it's a proof, one of the evidences that first we have a soul, and second, that the soul of the humans are surviving to what is called the dead. So the movie is making all this tourism around the death and so on. But it's because the people don't know, they don't have a serious knowledge about it and so on. So it's the more curiosity or funny thing, exotic stuff and so on. Sometimes also people are terribly afraid about it. So the only thing is make serious studies about the subject, and then you will see that the things are much more simple than what we think. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, my friend. Yes, much simpler. And supposedly, in the 19th century, these communications in France was very common. And Kardec, it was one of those who tried to organize everything, you know. So we have another video, but yes, I think it's good to show the video right now, and then we go to Munir. Let me put the video here.
At the time of death, there's something called deathbed coincidences. In these, the dying person, at the moment of death, because you've got data to support that, goes and visits somebody to whom they're emotionally connected. They have to be emotionally connected. And they give them a message. And the message, the way they give the message, depends on how the person who's receiving the message are. If you're awake, then you tend to feel the person's presence. You feel something awful may have happened to them. You have to contact them and find out what's going on. They very seldom give a message then. But if you're asleep, then you get a narrative dream. You're told a story. You're visited by the dying people, and they will say, I'm okay. Please don't worry about me. It's all right. And then they leave. So these are very, very reassuring to the family and the relatives. And then at the time of death and just after death, there are a lot of things which happen. People see light in the room over the time that you're dying. Other people see things leaving the body. Other people experience the fact that their clocks may have stopped at the time of death. So there are lots of things that many of them are quite local. Animals are very common in the dying phase, and birds particularly. And we've got a lot of stories of birds that seem to be carrying people who the relatives feel carrying the spirit of the dying person. Some people in the stories we have associate this going process with a change in temperature in the room, and sometimes with a feeling that something has left. And then that seems to be the end of the dying process. So there are lots of exciting things.
Okay, now with this wonderful explanation from Dr. Peter, let's go to Munir. My friend, why do someone see spirits and they close their eyes, they still can see the spirits? They hide their ears, but they still can hear. Why this happen?
Hi, thanks for the question, Stevan. The answer is very straightforward, but what is behind that is quite wide and complex. It happens because we don't see with our physical eyes, and we don't hear with our hearing system. So what we are using are actually the perception that we get from our spiritual body that we call a perispirit. So it doesn't matter if our eyes are closed or not, because we are not using them to see. We're not using our ears to hear, but we are using properties and faculties of our perispirit, which is our physical body, our spiritual body. Although we have a physical body, we also keep our spiritual body while we are here. So we use them to see and hear the spirits. And then comes the question, why don't we hear and see them more often? Because we need to have a degree of mediumship for that to happen more often. Cases that Charles mentioned, people who, and I know a person, she gave up driving because she would see people crossing the street and she wasn't sure if they were spirits or living people. So she gave up driving, just in case she, got something wrong and provoked an accident. So we also have to understand that there are two ways of seeing spirits. The spirits may present themselves to our physical senses, and what we call that materialization. They use fluids, very special fluids. They are not very common one. The ectoplasm. Known, I think people who like to watch horror movies and they've heard about ectoplasm and so on, ghosts and so on. So they use these special fluids which are very close to the dense matter that we have, and they transform them to render themselves visible, even visible to our eyesight. And they make sounds that we can hear with our ears. But this is a very special case. So they are impressing our physical senses. But most often what we have is what we call apparitions. And apparitions are actually our perception through our spiritual body of the presence of spirits that make themselves, render themselves visible to us. And for that, we need mediumship. And we can see, for instance, our body. Mediumship is an organic faculty. It depends on the physical body that we have. And how is it possible? The body will tell me if I can see spirits or not. Yes, the body for the spirit is like a blanket, very dark, thick blanket that we put in and cover ourselves. We can't see what is on the other side unless we start to make tiny holes. And the larger the hole, the better the view we have of things that are on the other side. So we can say that, it's something physical, the blanket, that is allowing me to see or not what is on the other side. We can compare that to an organic faculty, which is mediumship. So some people, they have this hole in this blanket, which is the physical body, covering the spirits temporarily. And then making that the physical senses, the ones you mentioned at the beginning, the 5 ones, are for most people, are the only way we have to perceive the environment around us. But those who have these holes in the blanket, people with mediumship, they will be able to see through it and see what is on the other side. But then normally we have our 5 senses, and our eyesight is based on a very narrow band in the electromagnetic spectrum, the visible spectrum. So whatever is beyond that, on both sides, for the infrared side, for the ultraviolet side, we won't be able to see. So whatever we see is limited, even with our physical eyes. So if I'm looking at something, I can't say for sure that I'm seeing everything that is in the scene. No, I'm seeing very little, actually. And of course, I won't see spirits. To see spirits, I will need to have this hole in this thick blanket that covers me temporarily. But when we sleep, all of us, we enjoy a certain degree of freedom. It's like taking away this blanket, and we have just a thin veil around us. We won't see totally clear what is there because we are still attached to the physical body. But we start to see much more than that, interact with the spirits and see the spirits. So when we see them in the wake states, we are using our faculty, which is mediumship. And not everyone, although it has happened, it's been with humankind since its very beginning, because it's a faculty that belongs to humankind, and the spirit world is there, and we need the faculty to interact, to see, and to have this exchange with this spiritual world. It's through it. But what we use to do that, unless the spirits, as I mentioned at the beginning, They render themselves visible through materialization, which is a different type of phenomenon. They actually are impressing our senses. You can take photographs of them because they make themselves visible in material terms. But when we see them, normally we use our mediumistic faculty. And it's through this faculty, which, as I mentioned before, is organic. It is not the same for everyone, but it's part of our nature. Some have more developed, some have less developed. This hole I mentioned in this blanket may be very large, so we can see a lot, or we have just a very narrow view or hardly any view at all. And it allows us in certain cases to see the spirit. And this interaction is our spiritual body with the spiritual body of this spirit that is making him or herself visible to us.
Great. Yes, and it's important to say, as much as we deny, as much as we run away from it, worst becomes. No, it's.
Can I say something?
I don't think so.
Now, I was thinking about these two videos. The first one, like a phenomena that people want to know, spirits in caves or whatever, the places that are touristic places. And the other video is Dr. Peter Fennick, that does a wonderful research about people that are starting or are dying, and they see spirits, and they can describe spirits, even if the family doesn't know who they are. Sometimes it's a grandmother, grandmother. Sometimes the person has 80 years old and they see the spirits of a grandmother, etc., that the family now they don't know about. And they describe things from the spiritual world. People that are aware about this research and know that the dying person, is really seeing spirit. Even if this dying person is materialist person, a non-religious person, or doesn't want to know about spiritual life, etc., the phenomena occurs. So no one can stop this. So Dr. Peter does this wonderful research. This short video is part of a nine minutes video that we did in 2020. There are more in our YouTube channel. And the importance, when you talk about mediumship, and Charles as well, is to be aware about these studies. As Munir said, is our organic faculty. Yes, it's our organic faculty, but you should know how to use a scissor, how to use a knife, how to use things when you have a profession to do. This mediumship is not a profession, but it's something that is inner to you. So if you want to know more about, to do a course, to be aware, all the clarification regarding spiritist mediumship study or course, you can go to a spiritist center and ask a course, ask to be aware or to understand about your faculty of seeing that people, or listen, hearing people, etc., that are not here, and seeing people that are other people are, as Munir's friends, crossing the road, doesn't know if he's incarnate or discarnate spirits. As Divaldo Franco, as Chico Xavier, they had this faculty, or they have this faculty, and also have all these problems, inverted commas, that this faculty brings when not in good use. So mediumship is for us a lesson for life. When I started this thing, certain early ages, 7, 6 years old, I think 8 years old, I was seeing a spirit, the white light, a beautiful light, a spirit that comes every night and make me to pray my rosary of First Communion. And I was happy until 15 years old. 15 years old, it stopped at all, stopped. When Giovanna, my third child, born, I start seeing that the people again. But only after I enter to the Spiritist Center that I realize that they were spirits and I want to be free from the second part that it wasn't good spirits at all. 23 years old, starting seeing that the people, not good ones, and I asked my husband, take me to your Spiritist Center. I don't want to see these spirits anymore. I don't want. But it's not like that. Thanks God that is not every day or every moment that I'm seeing spirits, but I know how to deal. But I use this faculty and I put myself at the service of the good spirits, benefactors that guide our mediumship meetings in order to serve as a servant, only as a medium. But of course, I'm not the best one to receive only good messengers, etc. But at least I'm doing my part. If you are in any format, seeing that people hearing or you want to know more, please go to a Spiritist Center, a Spiritist mediumship meetings, Spiritist mediumship studies that guide you with a starting prayer and not as a phenomena only for public people see. That's something in private that we do, and that's great. It's good. It's important when you have it. Don't do like me. Take this from me. Take this away from me, because it's not like that. It's not like that at all. If you have a child seeing that people, seeing spirits, talk with your child. Go to the spirit center. Get some guidance how to deal with that. If you are elderly people, not at all accustomed to a spiritual side, etc. And if you start seeing that people, go as well to clarify yourself, to know a little bit more, because this is a phenomenon of the world. So mediums, we have mediums since starting humanity, and all the guidance that we have in our the medium's book, the spirits book, or the books that we have from Allan Kardec, from the spirits, they came through mediums. And they are very nice one in order to understand that we are a tiny grain in this huge mountain that is our planet. A tiny grain in our planet in the universe. So you can see how uh, important is to understand the spiritual world.
Yes, yes, yes. Exactly what like Marco Davis put it here. Since the historical, we do have in tribes the figure of pajé in Portuguese and shaman. We always had this sensitive person. I will steal a little bit the idea from Elsa because she put it to us here in a comment, a movie called 60 Cents. And this is a perfect movie about mediumship, how the communication occurs. Uh, I highly recommend you to watch this movie with, let's say, another eye. So sorry, Elsa, to steal, but it's it is a good example. And my dear, in the gospel according to Spiritism, we say Jesus and the Spirit of Truth telling us or calling us to wake up. It's time to renew the knowledge we have. So, how to wake up and what's their role our mentor has with us in developing our mediumship?
It's more or less what you were saying regarding our interest to research about. If you are feeling that you are hearing or seeing or even on other kind of phenomena, people that are not aware about spiritual world or doesn't want to be involved in spirituality, they go to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrists immediately call them hallucinators, seeing hallucinations, figures, etc., etc. If it's not a neuronal problem, you are really a medium, and you should search for guidance for that. Your benefactor, my benefactor, they are aware, they are guiding us, they are inspiring us to do this, to do that, accordingly the situation that we have. Sometimes if you are not research, I'm seeing some images, etc. Perhaps I have a problem here, I have to go to the to ophthalmologist, etc. But perhaps not. Perhaps you should listen your inner voice, and the benefactor send it to you from nowhere, a message that comes to your hand, or a book, or even music, or a film. This film that Steven just mentioned, Sixth Sense, that is something above our intelligence now that we should learn, we should go for it. And our benefactor, always that we call inverted commas guardian angels with no wings, are here to help. They are guiding us before we born and after we die. So they have their task to guide us, to help us. And if we try to remove this clairaudience, clarividence from us, it's difficult really to go further in order to develop. So a lot of people goes to psychiatrist hospitals because they don't accept there are mediums, or the family doesn't accept there are mediums, or they have mediums in the family, and try to remove this, and medication that really do a damage to our neuronal Munir, help me, neuronal problem. So I think that's it, but it's not something far from us. All of us, we have mediumship in different levels, some more ostensive, some less ostensive. And I know there are people here writing here, as Bonnie, Anna, Marco, and others that are here now, Ruben, etc. They know about mediumship. They know the importance, not fight against, because it's not something that you can take from your hands. You can get out of your mind with your hands. If something is there, respect, go for it, study a little bit more, and you are a gifted person to have this mediumship, to use for a good purpose, to help others, healing, cure. There's a lot of things that we can do when we have the right guidance. The benefactors in the Spiritist Center are guiding us. The group study together, reinforce this protection that we should do, as Charles mentioned, that it's not possible to do mediumship like a distraction or something that's not for a good purpose. I think it's more or less like that, Stevan.
Yeah.
My friends here, Munir and Charles, can add something more, please.
I'd like to say that some people, their concern is actually to develop mediumship. And I don't like this idea of developing mediumship. You can develop mediumship, yes. If you don't have any, you may get some. But, you won't go from nothing to, fully open mediumship. And if you have a little, you may gain a bit more. But as the Spirit advises, let it flow naturally. What is important to do with mediumship? Because some people have, and they want to get rid of it. Some people don't, and they want to have this wonderful mediumship, well, for so many reasons. But the important thing is to train, to tame your mediumship. This, in my view, is what is really important. If you don't have, well, no need to train your mediumship or to tame it. But if you have mediumship very clearly, if that hole in your blanket is large enough for you to see a lot of things and get impressed with that and see new worlds basically, and you can cope with that, it's important that then you learn with your faculty, you tame your faculty. And as Elsa said, it's important to study. We have so many books good books, the ones compiled by Allan Kardec, that explain in many details what mediumship is about, how it works, and so on, and the purpose of mediumship. Since mediumship is used as a bridge between the physical world and the spirit world, and the spirit world moves in a different way, the currency there is completely different. So we may spend our life here just accumulating and making money. This is our main concern, just survive here in material sense. But when interacting with the spirit world, the meaning is different. Our values here, our money doesn't mean anything to them there. You can't do anything with, the money and, the precious stones and things that we have here. So it's like going to different culture with a country with a completely different culture. We have to learn how to behave ourselves in this culture. Otherwise, they will look at us and, see us as someone completely, who is not fitting at all in that society. And then for us, it won't be a good thing. So if we have mediumship, it's important to actually learn how to use mediumship, how to train your mediumship, how to tame your mediumship, because some people, they don't have control of the mediumistic manifestation, and it's important to have control of it.
This is why, Munir, we use also the wording to educate the mediumship.
Exactly, Charles.
The faculty is existing in some persons. It's linked to a physical disposition of our body, maybe pineal gland, maybe something else. And when we have the faculty, it's up to the free will of everyone.
Of course.
As you told correctly, one can say, no, I don't want to deal with this, I'm blocking. It's a free will. And the others, before practicing, they need to educate it, to learn about it, exactly as you told. And what's happening also, I see the comments, previous comments from Marco Davis. He's telling that more and more people are mediums and have this hole in the blanket, as you told, have mediumistic facilities. And this is something which happens naturally, and it comes together with the evolution of the humans. The more the human people are evolving along the time, the more the percentage of the people who have a mediumistic, ostensive mediumistic faculty will increase.
Yes, the blanket is getting thinner and thinner, and we begin to see through it. Not very clearly sometimes, for some people. But, one day we'll be able to see through it, more often. It will be very common.
And it's important to say it's not because you have this, let's call it, gift, you are not more or less important than those who don't have this gift at all. So there is no, I am more evolved than you because I have no.
You have very bad people with mediumistic facilities, the faculties, and they are even using it for either earning money or making bad things.
Yes.
Like macumba, like whatever, black magic or whatsoever. So this is also part of the education of the mediumship. What is the mediumship for? What is the purpose of it? And clearly, I mean, if you want to have the assistance of good spirits, you have to do good. Otherwise, the good spirits, they don't stay. And then the less good spirits are coming and making a mess out of it. And it's very important to know such basic things.
Reminder the importance of the Spirit Center. That is, the courses, the studies are totally free.
Yes.
If you pay for the studies in colleges, etc., you will earn money in order to pay your expenses before. So that's not the way that Spiritism mediumship works.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's following the teaching which tells give for free what you receive for free, and what the spirits from the spiritual worlds are giving us. They are not paid for it because the money has no course in the spiritual world. So credit card doesn't work there. Huh? So we get all their help for free. So we should not make money out of it, clearly. Because we would make money out of something we don't control, and this is not fair.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Wonderful.
So let me go to the announcements.
Remember that today is the last meeting of 2002. Oh my God. Oh my God. Next New
Yeah.
Year.
So, and we will start a year with a huge one. The time has come. So, next Wednesday, 4th of January 2022, we will talk about the time has come. Okay? So, SSL has a new link, www.youtube.com/SSLUKSSL. So, visit the link. Every other Tuesday, we have the study of the book No Solar with Guilherme Dias from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And with Guilherme as well, and Munir and Charles, we do have the Medium's book, the study of the book from Kardec, the Medium's book. Also, every other week, we do have the conversations on mediumship with Guilherme Dias and Rafael Calda every other Tuesday. And this is it from us today. I want to say thank you all for being here with us, for your comments, those who's watching us live, those who will watch us later. Thank you for all the questions, all the opportunity to make us a little bit more studying spiritism. That's what you make us, because before we start the live, we need to study, we need to review, we need to understand what we're gonna say here. I want to say thank you, Munir, for always be available for us.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Elsa, my dear, it's a
And,
pleasure to have you, and Charles.
Big hug to everyone. Happy New Year! It's coming.
Yeah.
We are really the last days of this year, and hoping all the best, wishing all the best to all for 2023.
Great.
Thank you all. Thank you, dear friends. Thank you for your support, for being with us. Marcos, every week here with us. It's nice. Ana Cristina, thank you for your nice comment, Ana. Thank you very much from Ireland. And thank
Yeah.
you all. Ebony, who is there more? That is said is a nice Ruben and other people here. But God bless you all. Have a nice and wonderful weekend with Jesus in your heart, first of all, in this passage of to the new year. New year, hope, faith, and charity. Bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And Anna,
Yeah,
I saw
thank
you
you.
are in Ireland, so come to visit us. We do have our Spirit Center meetings every other Sunday. We will start on the second Sunday of January. So go to www.isf.ie. So it will be great to have you there. My friends, thank you
Thank you.
for everything. I'll see you next year.
Yeah. Wish you all a happy new year.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.